Hi everybody, I am back with Stevi Lowmass, the founder and CEO of the Camel soap factory in Dubai. And today we're going to be talking about the factors that have contributed to her success and the lessons learned along the way. Thank you so much for coming back, Stevi, to talk about your career journey. We mentioned last time that you started your kind of your career transition later in life, really. You launched the Camel soap factory at you had your turning point maybe around the age of 47 and then launched it shortly thereafter. With age often comes experience, and actually there does seem to be a pattern. I've worked in a startup before where a lot of the entrepreneurs tend to be very successful where they start off later in life, so 40 and above. Do you think that your age in any way has contributed to your success?
Definitely. I think I had this notion earlier that to be an entrepreneur you had to be young, and I think it's quite a common misconception. And actually, more recently, I've read studies that say that the most successful entrepreneurs are actually those who start in their 40s and 50s. So it's not uncommon. My dad started his businesses in his 50s. He started his first really successful one younger, but he started a whole lot more in his 50s. So maybe it was example for me. But I think for me, I had a really solid confidence in my abilities that I don't think I had 20 years ago. I'd also worked in a couple of startups, and I had learned a lot about what not to do and what I did not want to do in my company. I'd worked for a company in London. They were an amazing startup with a really amazing software product, but their management left something to be desired, which I thought was really quite sad. And I've always thought when I start my own company, I'm going to be different. Yeah. And then more recently in Dubai, I worked with a startup, a company that unfortunately went under in the global financial crisis. And that was an amazing lesson for me on also what not to do, what to watch out for, things like cash flow. You know, when you work in corporate, you're not very aware of all of that. So working as a consultant for these companies, and in particular the company that went under, was an amazing learning experience for me because I learned a lot about the pitfalls. And actually, I think it has really stood me in good stead. So my advice is, you're never too old.
Yeah,
you really aren't ever too old to start something. And two, there is no replacement for experience. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm going to come on to your experience in a moment, but I can't help but ask you, do you ever wish that you'd started it a little bit earlier on?
If I'm honest, probably a little bit earlier. But to be quite honest, I think everything happens at the right time, often for a reason.
That's true.
Yeah, and no, I'm not unhappy about where I am now. I think one of the biggest things for me, though, is I'm in my 60s now, when a lot of people, it makes you reconsider everything about life. So, you know, we all have these preconceptions, have babies by 30, become a grandparent at 60, you retire, and you have to chuck all those preconceptions out the window. And it's really quite life-altering, actually, when you start to think about why on earth would you have to stop working at 90? I was watching a documentary on TV, and it's David Attenborough, and he goes, hello, my name is David Attenborough, and he says, I'm 93 years old. Oh, wow. And I said to my husband, I was watching this last week, I said, oh my God, how powerful is that? Here's a man who's still working actively in something that he loves and is passionate about. Age is not a factor in anything that he does, and it shouldn't be in ours either.
Absolutely, no, completely agree. That's such a beautiful message. And, like we said, you have had a lot of experience. Just wondering, in your corporate career, is there anything that you took away from that specifically that, has maybe brought value to you in your business?
Corporate, no.
That's very honest.
No, other than things like learning, planning. At one stage of my career, I worked as what's called a capacity planner, where you plan how much computer power is needed to drive a bank or an insurance company. And that kind of really deep, detailed planning, I think, has stood me in good stead, because I'm really not afraid of spreadsheets, and I'm not afraid of really delving into the numbers and planning down to fine detail. And that, I think, would not have happened without a corporate background, if I'm really honest.
Yeah. So it has. It has.
I'll tell you what it taught me. What I don't like is politics. We don't have politics here.
So you learn what not to do as well.
You do, yeah. And I think it does you do need to look at and understand what you didn't like, to make sure that what you create is in the image of something that's beautiful and lovely.
Yeah, and that reflects you.
And reflects you, exactly.
So, and then in terms of your success more generally, excluding age and experience, which we've discussed, is there anything else that you think has contributed to your success?
Yeah, I think a few things. I think an inability to take no for an answer helps. When I started the business, I was trying to get a license to manufacture soaps from my home, and everybody said to me, you can't do it. It'll never happen. And I was pretty dogged, because I just thought, there has to be a way to do this. And you have to ask enough people. And eventually I just came across this woman at a networking function, and I was explaining to her what I wanted to do, and she said, I think I can help you. And she went into the DED and talked to them and came out and said, oh my God, they're going to give you a license.
Oh, wow.
I know. And it's happened more than once now, where I've had stuff happen, and if I had sat back and accepted no as an answer, we would just not have been able to move forward. The other thing that's really important is to have a really clear vision of what you're trying to do. And it's become really startlingly clear to me now in COVID. We've always had a really clear vision of what we wanted to do with our product. So, we love the UAE, and we really want every one of these beautiful products to reflect, heritage and tradition. And we did that really well, except then the tourists stopped going to visit.
That's true.
So COVID has been a massive wake-up for us, and we've realised that you also have to update your vision and strategy. You have to be able to change and tack really fast.
Okay.
And you've got to be able to take your direction and steer the ship on a different course quite quickly.
Okay. Because there are a lot of people actually these days, particularly the younger generation, I find, who are looking to kind of leave behind their corporate careers to pursue their own projects, whether it's out of passion or for more freedom or flexibility. So, I think you've already given a lot of advice there, but if there was kind of one single thing you would maybe tell them, what do you think it would be?
Listen to age, but just also go with your gut. go with your gut. I think today's young people, my daughter included, are growing up in a really different world. There's not going to be the same corporate jobs. There's not going to be the same corporate environment. There's not going to be the safe havens. And I think, it's quite possible my daughter might have 4 or 5 jobs running at any one time. She might be running a blog like yourself, or she might be part-time on stage doing something, and she might have another little career to go. And I think that you have to really not be bound by expectations, but by what's good for you.
That's the perfect note to end on. Thank you so much, Stevi. I love it.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you everyone for watching.